right now it's one of our favorite Mavs guests. Had him on all season. He's been so generous with his time to join us and bless us with his insights and knowledge about the matchups. It's Tim Cato of The Athletic here once again in the GBag Nation, and a good afternoon, sir. How the heck are you?
I'm doing well, man. I've got so many radio requests this week from cities I didn't even know existed, and I'm honored. And I sadly had to say no to a lot of them, but to you guys, I'm going to be here. Absolutely. We got to finish this journey.
You're the man, Tim. I want to know how you assess this Mavericks team and how differently that's changed since, the final month of the season. I think they've looked like very legitimate NBA champions and a very, very tough out. I'm picking them very bullishly against Boston in this matchup. How do you break it down at this point?
Yeah, I think they've objectively proven that they are, a top 2 team in the league. You could make an argument for top 3, maybe. They didn't have to play Denver. I think that would have been I think that might have been a slightly more I think it would have been a more difficult series than what they faced against Minnesota. But look, this team is so good. This team is exceptional. I think all the narratives, all the watchers, all the media, everybody is finally catching up to the fact that this is a genuine, deserved title contender, that it's playing fantastic basketball, that it knows its identity. It knows how to win games. It keeps doing it. Absolutely. If you want to choose them for the finals, I mean, we can get to my pick and how it's going to look and all that stuff. But this is a team that can win the NBA Finals, and you don't need me to tell you guys that they're in the finals. Yeah. They're that good.
In style, and obviously you don't win 64 games on accident, but I'm not sure exactly how to quantify what Boston has accomplished. What can you help us with there?
I do think Boston is very, very good. Net rating, which is one of those stats, it's basically just how much you outscore teams over the course of the year. They weight it by how fast or slow your tempo is, all that stuff. Their net rating is something like 4th in the last 30 years. It ranks up there. I think a couple of the teams ahead of them are the Jordan Bulls and the Steph Warriors that went on and won 67 games. They're exceptional. And now, yes, they played in the Eastern Conference. The competition was not quite the same. Obviously, even their run to the finals was, something marked by injuries to opponents, and it definitely objectively an easier slate than what Dallas had to go through. But don't make any mistakes thinking this is not a very, very, very good team. And a very different team, I think, than any Dallas has faced thus far this postseason.
Tim Cato of The Athletic and the only Mavericks podcast with us here in the GBag Nation. Porzingis returning, is that more impactful for the Celtics on offense or defense?
I would say offense, because it's so hard to plan for a center, a 7'3" guy shooting from 30 feet. And, we saw that in Dallas. We did not see it as consistently or as often or as dangerously as he has shown it throughout this season for Boston. And, I don't think there's any real hard feelings between these two sides. It was an opportunity that didn't work out. And it was a, new front office that chose to go a different direction and how they wanted to build around Luka. And now, both teams are obviously in a very good place. A better place, you might say. But offensively, yeah, he makes it very difficult for Dallas to do what they want to do, which is just pack the paint and, prevent shots at the rim. And here's Boston on the other side, the team that took the most, attempted the most, made the most 3-pointers in the regular season, have continued doing that throughout the postseason. Sometimes they're just fine with that. It's like, hey, you want to prevent us from getting layups? We won't even take them. Joke's on you. And so that's where I think Porzingis certainly impacts both sides of the court, but I'd say offense.
Tim, we've talked to you a lot about Kyrie and Luka, and certainly the duos are one of the big storylines heading into this finals. As you've prepped for Boston, what are some of the strengths and weaknesses and things that you've kind of learned about Brown and Tatum, who have certainly been in these positions before but have come up just short?
Yeah, they're both great. They're both fantastic scorers. They are, of course they are. They're the best 2 players on a 64-win team, as you guys were saying. They're not Luka. And that has to be the case for this series. Like, there's no question about this. For Dallas to have a chance, Luka needs to be the best player in the series. They're not as capable of, they just don't have as many counters. They don't have as many passes they can make. They can't run every type of pick and roll because of the supporting cast around them, because of because they're both on the team and they're both stars on the team. They don't need to do that. Boston has not asked them to do that. But when you look at Luka, you look at a player who is unguardable, who can look at every single defense you throw at him, every different scheme, defender type, and he's going to find a way. He has already shown, solutions to get through that and to score and to make his team better. And that's the thing that Dallas has done this entire postseason. They've made opponents look bad. They've made them look uncomfortable. They've made them look not like themselves. If there's any weaknesses, that's what Dallas is looking for. They're looking for those few weaknesses in these two players' games who are just not quite at Luka's level. Nothing wrong with that. And they're going to try to exploit them, and they're going to try to make them look like players who just aren't quite the players that we've seen from them all season.
Tim, who has the advantage in clutch time?
I mean, I'm going to go with Dallas, of course, because we've seen Luka and we've seen Kyrie. Kyrie has one of the greatest clutch shots in NBA history. I will say that I know Boston has been knocked for this, and rightly so over the years. They have struggled at times late in games. That has been an issue of theirs. The stats say they've been very good this season, both in the regular season and in the postseason. Jason Tatum has some wild, like truly wild Game 7 numbers. And so I'm not out here saying that those narratives, which came up from a place when they were struggling in the clutch, when this was an issue. I just think Boston has put some of those to bed. So I'm not going into the series and thinking, well, Dallas is just going to win every clutch game. But it's Kyrie and it's Luka. Dallas does have the advantage in the clutch. And, they've shown it all postseason. They certainly showed it against Minnesota. And I think that's a win for them if they keep. Of course, it's a win for them. Going into late games and it's still close, I'm going to bet on those two.
Is that the reason?
Luka and Kyrie.
Excuse me, Tim. Is that the reason why you feel like that they have some road dominance, the way they're able to play because they have with Luka and Kyrie? Is that been? It seems to me that when they play on the road, they just find ways to get it done.
Yeah, and being good in the clutch could be described in another way. It could be poise.
Yeah.
It could be poise for 48 minutes. It can be the right mentality that when you go on the road, you're not changing who you are.
Right.
In fact, for Luka, he gets better because, people yell at him and then he yells back at them and then he,
really
goes hit
simple?
a 30-footer just so he can yell at them some more.
Is it really that simple?
Do what?
Is it really that simple? I mean, that he thrives on that. Is that really that simple?
I couldn't believe he actually said this, and it's true, and
Yeah.
I'm glad he said it. I'd rather him just be honest, but he said that he rathered closing out Game 5 in Minnesota than on his home court.
Yeah.
Because he just wants to hear the silence of the fans.
Yeah.
He's cold-blooded.
He is.
Okay, it's Tim Cato in The Athletic. What's the biggest difference in the Celtics compared to the other teams the Mavs have faced, and how do you think the Mavs are fixed to problem solve that?
There is no one on the Celtics roster who will not take 8 threes in a quarter, certainly a half, if Dallas looks at them and says, we don't trust you to take those shots. That is a huge difference. That is not something that even when they played against a center who shot threes in the Oklahoma City series, how many threes was Chet Holmgren taking? I think he averaged about like 3.5 or 4.
Sure.
That wasn't a lot. He looked tired. His shot was flat. He's just not at a point of his career where he's going to be launching threes over and over and over again. And Dallas did a fantastic job with their, defensive game plans. They also sagged off, Lou Dort and Aaron Wiggins. And, obviously when Josh Giddey in the game, they completely ignored him. But every single Celtics player will shoot and shoot and shoot and shoot again if you give them that. So Dallas has to come up with really creative ways to still play to their strengths and their defensive principles, which at times, throughout these playoffs have been sagging off of shooters. They're going to have to find a way to duplicate that and still get back out to those shooters because they will, Boston will burn you if you leave them open.
It's great. Tim Cato with us here in the GBag Nation. When it comes to the bigs, I mean, you talked about KP there. To me, one of the biggest advantages is the athleticism of Lively and Gafford. You know, Horford's had some big moments for the Celtics in the postseason, but he's certainly aging and in the twilight of his career. What do you think about the matchup between the bigs in the series?
Yeah, I mean, we've covered all the shooting stuff that Boston does. I agree. You know, one thing that they give up is that they're not hyper, impressive or athletes. You know, Kristaps is massive and tall, and he is a great shot blocker. But can he run out to the the corner shooters? You know, he's probably not going to be guarding one of Dallas's centers. He's probably going to be guarding PJ Washington or Derek Jones Jr. That keeps him at the rim a little bit more, or allows him to sag off of a shooter a little bit more if Luka's running pick and roll with those players. It's a way to take away Luka's preferred pick and roll partner. But can Porzingis get all out to those corners? We've seen Derek Lively do that. And also, if Derek Lively is on offense and Porzingis isn't guarding him, sure, maybe it's Tatum, who's big. But of course, Derek Lively has an offensive rebounding advantage there. And I could easily see there being a game in this series that swings because Dallas gets 12 or 15 offensive rebounds. They just get more volume, they get more shots. And even if the Celtics are hitting a few more shots, even if they have all these efficiency stuff that, we've talked about all year with them, you're still not going to score more points if the other team takes like 12 or 15 more shots than you.
Tim, how much investigative journalism have you been doing on the Michael Finley removing the beer out of Luka's hand? Can you give us any details on the why?
I think it was an optics thing, but my preferred scenario is that Michael Finley just wanted to drink it. He was like, that looks nice. My turn. There's no, I will say this. I heard some speculation and theories that, there's a pact that Luka isn't drinking beer in the postseason or something like that. That's not the case. I promise you that. He's allowed to enjoy a few beverages after, a series clinching win, that sends him to his first NBA finals. I think it was just somebody like being a little too concerned about the cameras around or something like that. But it's not a big deal. Let the man drink his beer. It only makes him better, clearly.
Yeah, he needs those recovery beers. He's lent voice to that before. Like, come on,
he's
gonna have a postseason beer.
Me and Luka have a lot in common.
Hey, what about the coaching matchup? What do we need to know about Joe Mazzulla? How much respect do you have for him? Where can we poke holes in his game? How can he bleep this up for his team?
I think it's so interesting how they have really similar mentalities and the way they talk about basketball. So Mazzulla has been saying stuff like, asked about the bright lights, and he's like, well, unless they change the lights in the arena, they're not going to be any brighter than last series. And he also asked about the journey of the team, and he's saying something like, this isn't the end of the journey. The end of the journey is life. Maybe when that ends, the journey ends. And that's actually really similar. The kind of like stoicism, if you want to get, philosophical about it, that really is the same things that Jason Kidd constantly preaches. He uses, he says it in different ways, but, even that. So you guys remember that infamous quote from last season when things were going poorly, and all Mavs fans and probably you guys were upset about it. And it was him saying, I'm just sitting here coaching on the sidelines, just like y'all, something to that effect. If you look at it in an 82 game sample, and especially if you look at it through the lens of Luka, someone he has slowly been trying to morph and change and develop better habits and to play better defense and to run a little bit quicker, all of these things make a little bit more sense, where he doesn't view it as any given game. That's the moment that Luka is going to change, or the team for that matter. He views it as a very long process. I guess specifically for Mazzulla, since I kind of just talked around the question, the big thing for me is that they don't send doubles. They don't send doubles hardly ever at star players. If Luka just forces them into that, he might be in a situation where he has 38 points halfway through the third quarter. Are you not going to double him there? I think Mazzulla's approach is that he always wants to stick with what's brought them there. And even if that means single coverage, he might want to stick with it. Has he coached his players to withstand that mentally, to watching this guy score and score and score on them over and over again? Or will they start cheating and helping and getting away from what's brought them here? Because that's what I think Mazzulla wants them to do. And I think that's going to be a big question in the series, is kind of, especially given the mentalities, which coach blinks first.
Do you dabble in the area of official picks, Tim? Who do you think is going to win this thing?
I've said Mavs in 6 because, like, who am I to bet against them, to say anything against them? I could see it being Celtics in 5. I could see it being Mavs in 7. That's the thing. I look at every outcome and I'm like, sure, I could see that.
Yeah.
So yeah, give me Mavs in 6. I am not fun when it comes to this stuff because I just think through what could happen, not what will happen. But Mavs in 6.
Are you thinking of the players coming up to you in the post game like, Tim, I can't believe you bet against us, man?
I mean, that's happened every once in a while, but it is what it is. If they want to do that, honestly, Luka probably wants me betting against the team. He wants everybody, this is a team that it likes the underdog status. And so, if anything at this point, Jason Kidd's going to be mad at me that I'm not making them even more of an underdog at this point.
I love it. Is Luka the best player in the game?
I think after this playoff run, you have to say he is. And here's my not fun coming side coming out again. Like there's great cases for, still for Jokic and still for Giannis. But look, to be the king, to be the top guy in the NBA, you have to go take it. Mm-hmm. And I think for Luka to take this team to the finals, he has gone and taken that mantle. He's taken that crown. He is the best player in the NBA. That I'm willing to say definitively. We'll see how things change. But I think this playoff run is him taking that crown. It's his coronation.
Well, you're the man, Tim. Thank you so much. Enjoy this finals, and maybe we can talk about it afterwards. Appreciate you.
Absolutely.